item because we have Reverend Fay here. Thank you for coming. I think, and also I mentioned that we were going to have one Saturday. We were going to come visit you, if to go over some things in more detail. I mean, that event, I sent it to you. Anybody else is welcome, but 11 o'clock on Saturday. I'm trying to figure out the best way to have the conversation. We obviously, when we did the purchase of the conservation restriction, it has easement access rights and rights to a parking lot. And for, I think, a wide variety of reasons, we're not at that point yet. And we obviously, I think, want to be. So that's why we're having this discussion, and that's why we're having the meeting on Saturday. And I think you're willing to work with us so that we can come up with the resolution to the current situation as quickly as possible. So I don't know if anybody else wants to add any sort of color or set the table on this.
So this is Rolling Ridge, right?
Yeah.
I don't know who we're talking. Should he?
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I'm Lawrence J. I'm the director at Rolling Ridge. I've been there for about 2 years. And when I landed, I inherited the easement project, and so I apologize for not following up with the Preservation Commission about what the next steps need to be. But I know that in talking with John, as well as with Peter Boyton, who's part of the planning board, who's been working with us in terms of some lake management stuff, we're excited about this project and looking to see what we can do to be able to have access to the community. One of the things that we really want to be able to do is provide more earth literacy, and so we're especially providing putting some kiosks for education about the lake ecosystem, and so I think there's going to be some good places where we might be able to do that. I walked through the property with my maintenance manager today, and so I'm looking forward to the walkthrough with members from the Preservation Commission and anyone else who wants to join about how we can kind of work through some of the arrangements that need to be made to be able to get access to everything. I know that in reading through the plans that I inherited, I know that we need to figure out how we're going to be able to make parts of it handicap accessible as well. That's going to be part of the challenge, along with the parking spaces, because there is the wetlands that are there. And so I think it's just going to be trying to figure out all the ins and outs of the time frame for it. And so, but Rolling Ridge celebrates 100 years of our groundbreaking this year, and hopefully we can either have the project done or underway so we can announce it at that community event. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do.
So I've been going out to that piece of land before we ever had the easement. I'd say since I was probably about 16 years old, I don't think a month goes by that I don't go on the property. So this past summer I went out there, and the parking lot still wasn't built, so I pulled in where I always pull in and was walking down towards the water, and I was approached by somebody who worked for the place and told me I was trespassing and to leave the property. I was kind of taken back by that. He told me there was a parking lot down the end, which there is no parking lot, and it's not safe to come in and out because you can't turn around there, especially if it's wet. And I explained that to him, and he said, well, that's your only use. That's where you go. So that's where I've been going lately, and it is difficult to get in and out, and a few other people, but more importantly, now they're laying logs across the walkway so that somebody who's having a difficult time walking probably wouldn't get down that walkway. And then the last time I went, they parked a boat on the walkway and then put logs on either side of it to make it even more difficult to get down the walkway.
And so that's been moved.
Yeah.
And so I think the logs. So one of the reasons why the logs are there is because we have problems during the summertime with high school kids coming onto the property and drinking, and that's one of the concerns that we have.
Well, they climb much better than I do, so I can tell you that. But if somebody were to want to bring their canoe or whatever, that was the agreement when I sat here, that they could park there. They'd be able to bring their canoe or kayak down. There's no way they're going to go over these logs carrying that. And if somebody who's older, who's maybe just out for a nice walk, That would be very difficult for them to get over that. I get that you want to obstruct maybe a motorcycle going in there or an ATV, and there's ways to do it. We do it in the playgrounds all the time. Be happy to talk to you, but we still have to get access, foot access, without having to climb over them. If you can understand that. Love the property. It's absolutely beautiful. And if I had one other comment, we can address it when we go out there Saturday, but your sign saying private property is very close to the water. I mean, the agreement was people could go in a little bit more than that's where it's posted. But the posted signs are within, in some cases, 6 feet of the water, saying that it's Rolling Ridge access only. And I get it, you don't want people up near the building, and that's the agreement, and I understand that, especially if you have a function going on or whatever. So, but I think we should talk about that when we go out there, so we're all on the same page, what we do.
And so from my understanding, the signs were put in by the Boy Scouts when I think this was, when the original agreement was. And so I'm going to need to get a little bit of a timestamp in terms of when that was done. And so I think that's kind of where it's trying to figure out how we go about marking where the easement is, and so where access is. So I think in terms of where the launch needs to be for the kayaks, I'm not sure where the best place for a kayak is going to be launched from that, from the areas where there's from their access points. If anything, it's going to be a place that's called Lakeside Launch, and so that's going to be where it's going to need to figure out, because to be able to get a canoe out there, it's going to require walking up and then walking down with something, unless we create another place to launch, which is going to be a little bit lower down. And so that's where part of the conversations will need to be about what are some of the uses of it. In reading through the agreement, I don't see anything mentioned about launching of kayaks, or at least creating a space for that.
I get to, that was when we sat here, and that was the big discussion. All the things, they wanted to open it to the community, get the community on the property, let them see how beautiful it is and everything, but that's kind of not the spirit we're in right now. But that, maybe it wasn't written in paper, but I can tell you in the meeting, that's what we all discussed, and launching, and being able to bring a kayak or canoe was definitely a part of it.
Okay. And I think that's kind of where when we, hopefully, I know that Peter can't make the meeting on Saturday, but that'd be one of the things I would like to talk with him about, where he thinks a secondary launch would be good, that would be able to have public access to it. Because when we walk on Saturday, you'll see that the best place to launch is going to require someone to go up a hill and then down a hill again to be able to get to an access point. There's a lower place where there could be an access point, but that's where we've got two different streams that kind of feed into the lake. And whether that's going to be a best launch, that's going to be one of the questions. And so I apologize if the spirit has been such that we've provided limitations on it. I think this is where I'm glad that we're entering into this conversation, because we want to be able to be good neighbors to the community. It's trying to figure out how we can go about doing it. I would love to be able to, again, to see some parking spaces with a wonderful kiosk, with good signage to be able to show how to get up and around. And so when we walk it, we've actually already been able to mark where the trail turns down, but again, it's walking up and then it's down a hill again to be able to get to a good launch spot. And so I think that's where the challenge will be in terms of that aspect of it.
The person who's going, they're going to have to figure that out.
I don't recall in the agreement where the easement is. I mean, and the parking lot. Isn't the parking lot supposed to be right near the golf course?
Yeah.
Well, then why are we even hedging about where it may go? I don't. So I mean, I guess I'm a little. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And right now, we'll need to figure out exactly from conservation in terms of the wetlands there, but that's the spot where the parking spaces are supposed to be.
I think this went through conservation already before the agreement, didn't it?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So this is.
You're right. We know
So he-
where the parking is going to be. How we lay out the
Well,
trails in the
was down the
field.
road already.
The trails are pretty well laid out, and they've even hayed them or chipped them
So it
so
should
that
be
they're
done
very
sooner
dry.
than
So the
yesterday.
trails are pretty
So
clear.
I don't think there'll be very much, but yeah, I mean, there'll be a little bit of signage we need to add, but everything else should be in good order. And,
It's just a gravel parking lot. I mean,
yeah.
we're not.
And as Terry said, obviously we want to make it wide enough so that you can back out.
Right, so, I mean,
And
I don't think this is that difficult, because it was kind of agreed upon where the parking was going, where the trails were going, where everything was going. I mean, you want it done soon, I'd like it done this summer. That's my only thing.
Yeah,
It's been hanging out there for quite some time.
It's great. Good. Well,
So I guess on Saturday, we can talk about it. I guess part of it's going to be is just the time frame for it in terms of when, when construction can begin and what kind of permits need to go through in regards to the parking lot.
The town is going to build the parking lot, correct?
The parking
So-
spaces. And I guess the question is going to be, is the conversation with the North Andover Trails Association, are they going to be coming on Saturday? So I'd like to be able to talk with them about,
About what?
Coming Saturday,
okay,
yeah, so, he's the head of the trails.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
good. Very good.
great. Think any other questions? Yeah.
11 o'clock on Saturday, but where will we be meeting?
Where should we be?
It was going to be, I think, my thought would be is, so if you come into the main
Couple of
Rolling
months.
Ridge parking lot, just go into the courtyard area. I figured we can probably just meet around the fountain that's there.
Okay.
And then that'd be a central area rather than just people hanging around the
Adult.
courtyard or hanging around in the parking lot.
11 o'clock.
Yep.
Great.
Okay, any other questions or concerns?
Any-
No, I don't think so. I appreciate you coming in. I appreciate your willingness to work with us. I mean, as you can tell, we want this to happen, so your willingness to help make that happen as quickly as possible is appreciated.
Good. So I think one of the things that we'll talk about is there's going to be some other trail work that's going to need to be done as well, and we'll just need to kind of navigate what can be done, I guess, with the limited time frame that, everyone is under. And I guess there's going to be some questions about trail maintenance.
I don't understand what limited time frame.
Well, I guess in terms of maybe not limited time, but there's some.
Well mapped out.
There's some other trails that need to be put in, and how that is going to be.
That have to do with this project?
Yeah, it's.
I mean, we only have the rights we have under the easement.
Right, we only have,
Water,
right, we have the easement rights, we don't, that's,
Well, so the
But I
easement-
mean, I don't know if all of the trails are built. If most of them are built, fine, but if there's a part of them that are not built, we'll just have to lay them out, I suppose.
And that's gonna-
That's what we can do that on Saturday.
Yeah, but that's what we can
Yeah.
kind of talk about in terms of
What?
how some of those trails need to be kind of navigated through. There's one trail that's supposed to be marked to be able to get to the labyrinths. And I think this is kind of where we'll need to talk about what the focus of the trails are going to be. I think if we could make it, I think the intention was to make the labyrinths also community access. And that's where I think that if we were to highlight that as part of the trails, it really becomes the end of the trail that people walk in, they can walk the labyrinths and walk back out again. So by highlighting that becomes a wonderful way to be able to say that we've got this spiritual gift that we're giving to the community. And so, but to do that, it requires a trail heading into the labyrinth, and that's one of the things that's going to need to be blazed, because there's just trees right there right now. And so I think you can see it's kind of at the end of the easement right there, getting into the labyrinth. And so I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but that'll be just one of the things that we'll just need
Both
to
sides of
explore
the
about how that trail can go in. So.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions?
Good. How many of you are going to be there coming on Saturday? Sounds like.
I'll be there for a short time. My son has a soccer game, so I can't stay too long.
I have parental driver's ed.
So, yeah, so it'll be, I think, 4 of us plus Glenn. Yeah.
Good, very good. We'll
Yeah.
see everyone on Saturday. If you want to
Right.
come in early and get a cup of coffee, come on a little earlier.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me borrow that.
Okay. On to our second topic, which is obviously a topic that we've talked about a lot. And if you'll allow me just sort of a few words to sort of try to set the stage on this is, what I'd really like to try to do with this is to see if we could come to a consensus on certain things. I know we have some disagreements, and I don't think we're all in agreement in this, but I think there's areas that we all do agree on, and I think in order to, for the long term, to maintain, I think, kind of a good working relationship, avoid conflict, let's see if we can kind of work through some of these things and see if we can come to an agreement on anything, a general consensus on something, because I think we'd be all better off if we could do that. And what I thought that we might do is to come up with what I said, maybe a few set of principles, a few set of facts that we all agree on, because I think we agree, on the ultimate outcome. We just disagree on the way we get there. And we ought to go through that and figure out, what we agree on and then where we differ. In the end, if we can't reach a compromise, then everybody votes their conscience. But if we can, I think we're going to be better off. So is everybody willing to do that? I mean, I really would prefer that. Yeah, okay. Let me, and again, I don't mean to sort of to hog and dominate the conversation, but I spent a lot of time thinking about it, both sides of the issue, where everybody's coming from, and I try to come up with a few things that I think everybody agrees with, but I want to put out some propositions and see if everybody does agree with them. And starting with the first one, and this is a little tricky, but I want to say it carefully, is I think everybody agrees that the land that we're talking about would be worth preserving for recreational purposes if a bunch of conditions are met. Primarily that it would be buildable under reasonable standards, and that the Conservation Commission and other groups would say it is buildable. So I'm saying, does everybody agree that if the property were buildable, it's a contingency, if the property were buildable, that it would be a property that we should purchase for recreation purposes? If it's not buildable, the answer is no. But if it were buildable, would we all agree that that's a good property?
For recreational purposes, not buildable for house building.
For how, I'm using,
Right.
for recreational purposes, yeah.
Well, I think that's an important distinction, because I'm trying to figure out, are we trying to say, like, if, are those the only two choices? Is it either buildable for houses and suitable for recreation? Is it buildable for houses as one condition, suitable for recreation as another condition, and maybe a third condition, just suitable for open space?
The third condition is that it could continue exactly as it is. I mean, if it's, the point is that if the land is wet and absolutely determined to be wet by any reasonable criteria, you couldn't build on it. And you couldn't build it for recreation purposes, you couldn't build houses. So it would just stay the way it is. And what I'm trying to get at a little bit is, again, and it's a contingency, and bear with me for a second, but if it were able to be developed for recreational purposes, that if it turned out there was less water on there, that the Conservation Commission went in and did their due diligence and said, yeah, you could build fields there, and we could purchase it, does everybody agree we should do that?
Well-
And it's obviously contingent on other things, but,
Here's my issue or take on it. Not issue, I guess. So the town, I know the stance is that they're not in agreement with that. They're under the impression, and I am too, and I swear testing was done, not that anybody can find any of the paperwork, but that the land is wet. So wet that it's not even useful for passive recreation. That's how wet it is. That's my understanding. So now, if it wasn't wet and buildable, in a heartbeat, buy it, give it to the youth center.
That was the first point I wanted to make. And again, I'm not trying
Totally
to trick
agree.
you or anything like that.
But where is the reports that have already been done? And if we can't find them, just do it again and let's
Well,
put this
that's a
to
little
bed.
bit, that's exactly where I'm going with this. That's
Right.
in the end what I'm trying to suggest is that I think there is a notion that if the land were available, it could be used for recreational purposes, and it wasn't that wet, we would have an interest in it. But it's very clear cut that if the land is wet, I don't think anybody on this committee would agree that we should.
Correct.
We should buy it.
Correct.
I mean,
Yes.
Okay,
Because it's never, it
Okay.
is what it
Yeah,
is, what it
100%.
is.
okay.
No, I mean, it's my understanding, and I don't know if Deb knows this or not, but the Conservation Committee, or at least the Conservation Office, already has an opinion that
Yes,
it's,
that it's
wet.
too
But,
wet.
but here's,
It's too
here-
wet,
here's
even
what,
passive
yeah,
recreation.
and I agree that may be true, but there's a couple of things that I would say.
We rely on the commission, though,
No,
and now
but
we
they
don't want
haven't,
to.
but they,
I'm just
Where's the
saying.
report then?
Because I know the report came before the Board of Selectmen
Step-
in either
step back
2014
for
or
a second. No,
2015.
they-
I don't know where it is.
the point ends up being is, if the land is wet, I guess what I'm ultimately coming to is, if the land is wet, I would like somebody to actually do a delineation and a survey, and I'll tell you how I think we can do it, to be absolutely sure, for two reasons. One is, part of the reason why the property is as wet as it is because there were streams going through the property, and it was tied into the sewage, into the drainage system, and a lot of water pumped through there. That changed 2 years ago, and it no longer is happening. So it's possible that what was there 2 or 3 years ago is not exactly what's there now. I don't know. This is my point. But a couple of other things, because I think one of the things that I think is, I want to put a stake in the ground, because the way the article was originally put together was the whole property. But I think it's unequivocally clear that everybody agrees we should only buy the land, and we should have absolutely nothing to do with the house. And we shouldn't even get it all involved in that. I mean, does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. And if it were to come to something where there was a building potential, we would only pay the appraised value. We wouldn't pay any, we can't. We're not allowed to pay any more than appraised value of the property. The appraised value for a property like this is pretty tricky, but we wouldn't pay any more than that.
Has it been appraised, the land?
No, and not,
Not the land,
yeah.
just the house. Is
I
Doc Alley
don't-
going to let us on to do the test? I
Well,
mean,
here's-
we have
this is-
50K in administrative. I don't know why,
Yeah,
just test it.
here-
I don't know what
yeah,
we're belaboring.
The other point I wanted to make is that we, if you look at all the land purchases we've done over the years in town, the ones that have worked out best are the ones where we've had a third party working with us. In the first 3 or 4 projects we did with the town, Trust for Public Land came in. And now we've had this year will be the second project for Essex County Greenbelt. And I think they're a top flight organization. What do people think about and having them come in and, doing the work to do basically to flag the wetlands and to potentially talk to the landowner and keep that, they will work with us. They're always willing to work with us. I've talked to them, but the idea is they could come in and they could do like what we're talking about. They could flag the wetlands and do the wetlands if assuming that, obviously he would let us on the property. He doesn't let us on the property. I think what they would do, they honestly would tell us if we can't get on the property, you should just walk away from the thing completely.
Well, yeah.
But that's what they would say.
Obviously.
So, my point is, what do people think about how, I'd like to see
I'd like to see an independent person, not from them, not from us, an independent person that Doc Atwood says okay to, go on, do the testing, come back, give us the results, and that's that. If it's wet, it's gone.
well, that's
If it's
exactly
not wet,
what I want to do.
That's a whole different story.
That's exactly the reason.
but I
why-
think we need to hire an independent
Well, the
engineer.
reason
What are they
is
called? I don't know what they're called.
that Greenbelt will actually do that if you want. Again.
No, I want an independent person to do it because Greenbelt has an interest. Not I'm saying that they're not liars, I'm not saying anything along those lines, but you're saying that we're gonna partner with them.
Well, what I'm saying is, if we
Isn't it
wanted
best
to,
for
if we wanted to
the
bring a
owner
third
to-
party in,
Yeah.
if we want, and we didn't want to do it ourselves.
No,
because
we shouldn't do it.
Every time, the hardest projects we've ever done are the ones that we've done ourselves. And because we don't have anybody on staff in town that's professional at this sort of stuff. So what I'm suggesting is have a third party come in that does this for a living.
John, I
Right.
think there's a misunderstanding. I think Greenbelt is not involved at
No,
this
they're
current
not
time. They're not
involved.
involved at all.
They're not
Right.
involved in
So
this
we'll
at
be
all.
bringing them in as a third-party independent.
No,
Yeah.
but then they're gonna wanna be a part of the purchase.
I don't think they do. do they?
Yes, they do.
Well, it
That's what
depends.
was mentioned
And
already,
it depends on what,
too.
well, they don't make any, I mean,
Either that you're going to bring them into the project or you're not, John. It's one of,
well,
it's not
yeah,
that.
and I'm just suggesting if,
just
the
suggesting.
advantage of having somebody like them is that they serve as an honest broker. They'll tell you to walk away from it if it doesn't make sense.
Right, so instead, why don't we just bring in a third party, and if the property is wet, then who cares? Why are you, like,
Well,
we do great
that's
deals
my
with them.
point
They do good
is
stuff.
exactly that if the property is wet and we flag the wetlands and have a delineation of the wetlands and it's
it's
wet,
wet.
we should absolutely walk away from it.
I mean, our own conservation commission that we turn to quite a bit feels that it's so wet, you can't even have passive recreation
But
there.
let's,
What do they call the people that do that type of work? Who
Well,
know?
they're-
Engineers, I mean, I.
Just an
I'm
engineer,
having
right?
One of those done on
A
a.
wetland scientist?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Okay,
having
let's hire one.
one
well,
of
we
those
can.
done.
I mean, we can do it ourselves or we could have somebody else do it.
I've said it 5 times.
Yeah,
I
I
want
mean-
someone else to do it.
Well,
I guess I would wonder, right, like, so there just seems to be like a mismatch between Essex County Greenbelt and what we're trying to accomplish with the property, because the end goal, if this were going to be some paths, I would say absolutely great partner, because that's their expertise, that's what they know about. And I'm not saying they don't know about wetlands either.
Right.
But what I'm saying is they're good at preserving land. And what we're trying to do is not,
Fields.
is to make fields and to have the town own the property for the benefit of the citizens to use as fields. So it
It's an
seems
excellent
like,
point, Bill. It's a mismatched partnership, I agree.
Well,
And
that's
thank you for
actually, they've
saying
done a lot
it
of
so
projects that
eloquently.
include active and passive recreation, so they're not exclusively.
I guess I just think, I feel like it's a much cleaner, I don't want, transactions is not the right word, but a much cleaner scenario if we just go hire a wetlands engineer to do it.
Okay.
Who we pay for, they do the work, they do their job and they give us the report and then we have it. It's yes or no.
So, okay,
pretty
fair
simple.
enough, why don't we do that then?
I mean,
need a motion?
I don't see a downside.
No, there's
to
not
that.
a downside. It's see, part of the reason, I want to do it for 2 reasons. One, to know exactly what
Yeah,
the current
totally.
state is. But the other reason I want is I want to have a baseline. Because if it's wet and we walk away,
Right.
3 years from now, I
it's
want to
dry.
be able to have that and say, hey, this is different.
So,
yeah.
I'm with you. So wouldn't it make more sense that we own the data?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
fine.
I mean,
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Why don't we plan on doing that? I mean,
Not plan.
again, who would like, I'd be glad, I know a lot of these people, but I like to work with somebody else.
Well, maybe
because
can we have the town
Right,
do
yeah.
that?
I was just
'Cause
gonna
we-
say,
the
Or do we
town
have
doesn't
to
any-
do-
Right,
I
how
know,
do we-
but
No, I mean, the
somebody-
town
We asked
help us
Lori
find somebody.
technically
Like the
how we would-
conservation committee
The
must.
conservation commission
procure.
or the planning board can find something. I mean, that's the reason why I know a half dozen of these people.
Right, but I think it makes more sense if we have the town go out and find that person for us rather than us calling around and
Yes.
No,
doing
that's
it.
fine.
Can I
That's
just
fine if you want
ask-
to do that. I mean, well, then do you mind if I, talk to the planner and you can talk to,
I'll
your
talk to
planner?
Jim.
well, I
and-
have
why
a
don't you do
question
it?
first,
Why
though,
don't you-
John. How do we have to go about procurement of this engineer? So we have our administrative fees. If we want to procure a wetlands engineer, I'm assuming we have to, do we
Well,
have to
we
procure
could
it through an RFI, I mean, an RFP? Okay,
No, engineering fees are exempt.
they are, okay.
I mean, what I think we probably, yeah.
You know, I think, John, I think
So
the
the
other
town
option
can.
too, well, hold on, the other option too is we could just close this thing and have Essex County apply and do exactly what you're saying. You know, have them go, figure out if it's wet or not, and then if it all works, come back to us with a button-up project, because, and I know you've said this before, and I agree with it, they come back with really well buttoned-up plan and everything. So that's another option too.
Well, it is another option, and it's basically sort of the option that I was thinking of. The only twist to that is, before we close the project, I would want to have them come in face-to-face and tell us they would do that. They will probably do that. I'm convinced they will do, you know, if, you know, one of the concerns that I think the group here that wants to keep it open is what happens if it gets sold between now and next year's town meeting. The Greenbelt will probably, although they haven't, you know, they would stand behind that in the interim period and carry the land. But I'd like to have them come in and say face-to-face they would do that, because there's no guarantee that they would do that. So, I mean, I'm fine with either one. If you want to, next meeting, I could invite them in and we can have that conversation, or what we can do is we can just go off and hire somebody on our own. Or we could do both.
With that, Donovan, though, for me, it goes back to the point that Bill made. I've always been under the impression the whole point of purchasing this property is for fields, for the youth center, to expand the fields for the youth center, not to partner with Greenbelt. They're awesome, they're wonderful, I love everything they do, but that's not what this project was
Well, it's
about.
only
But
partnering with
let me
the-
just finish,
yeah.
though, please, thank you. That is not what this project was ever intended. It is to purchase the property to add fields for the youth center, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
then why aren't we just moving forward with a wetlands engineer to once and for all, after all these years, just put it to bed?
Well,
Either
then
it's
that's
wet
fine.
or
I
it's
mean,
not,
I'm just
period.
responding to
You know what I mean?
Donovan's
I'm just
suggestion.
circling back to Bill, that I
if
think Bill's point
By
is
the way,
valid.
I mean, I don't agree with you completely that
Mm-hmm.
about Greenbelt's role, but if everybody is on board with.
No, I think that we could revisit the project in a different way with them.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, for the way that it's written now, let's put it to bed.
Let's put it to bed. Okay,
Can we, so Lori is here. I don't know if you're here staffing or if you're here.
If you had any questions, because this involves a town property. You're talking about,
The recreation?
The youth center.
Yeah, the youth
Right.
center, right.
Yeah.
So can we have her just, I mean, does the town manager or the town board of selectmen have an opinion, one way or the other?
yeah, microphone if you're.
Is that okay, John?
yeah, sure, that's
Yeah.
fine.
So, our acting town manager, Lynn Savage, had a conversation with Mr. Simons about the property. And the previous town manager and the current acting town manager, both are of the same opinion that, you know, we're not saying that it's not something that the town could use for the youth center, but at this point, it hasn't been done the way it should have been done. The application should have come from the town. It should have been based on an appraisal. We would need to talk to other town departments, conservation. So at this point, the application as it stands, the town manager's office doesn't support it. And it's been brought up in the past, I know Andrew Mailer had brought it up, that he suggested close the project, and when Mr. Atwood is ready to sell, and you have a plan and you have an appraisal, and then we can sit down and see if it's a feasible use for the youth center, then of course we'd want to move forward with it. So we're not saying that it's not something that we'd want to do, but it needs to be done in the proper way, and that's our only concern.
Okay, so that makes sense. I have a kind of a follow-up question and that you may not be able to answer right now, which is totally fine. But would the town manager be open to, if we were to close it now, would she be open to having a conversation with the Atwood family about a right of first refusal or something in the meantime? That would assuage, I think, your
Well,
concern of something.
I mean, the problem is that right now, I think his wife is sick, and he's not going to do anything with anybody. And if you do a right of first refusal, you're
And
going
even
to pay
a
for it.
better reason to close it.
So,
He just said he's not going to do anything with anybody.
no,
Wouldn't that be
in
a
the
better
very
reason?
short term, I said.
Oh, I'm
The very
sorry.
short
I didn't hear
term.
the short term.
Okay. But the point ends up, I think the point ends up being is, if everybody agrees, I mean, what I would prefer to do, I mean, and this was a little bit trying to get to a consensus, is spend the money on the appraisal. Once the appraisal comes back,
The report.
I mean, not the appraisal, the report, the wetlands report, yeah. We hire a botanist, they do the thing, it comes back, and we say, if it is less wetlands than we thought, we'd say, maybe we should keep going. If it's exactly as we think it is, we close the project out, and then maybe we talk to Greenbelt, so if sometime down the road something changes, maybe you can help us. But I mean, I think I just want to get the assurance that the land is wet and documented. And
So I don't disagree. I would want that assurance as well. I just now sort of am just a little unsure. I mean, if the town manager feels that strongly, if it doesn't fit into the town's plans
But wait a
even.
second, see, the problem with this is there's a lot of revisionist history going on, and I don't want to come up with a little bit of a disagreement here because this relaunches the thing, is that we took this thing to town meeting in 2016. We went in front of the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen approved it. We went in front of the
Yeah.
Finance Committee, the Finance
Right.
Committee approved it. We went to town meeting. It was a unanimous vote at town meeting. The town manager never raised an issue at all about it. So to come back and say
That's not
everybody's
true.
against it is not
That's not
completely true. I agree, in hindsight, there's probably some things that we would have done differently
Yeah.
about it. I mean, but at the time, we were concerned that the property was in play. We had to get a thing on the warrant. And that's what we did, and everybody supported it, so.
John, I wouldn't necessarily say everybody supported. I sat on the Board of Selectmen during that time. It wasn't, we weren't jumping up and down cheerleading for this.
No, but you
We
did
asked question after question.
No,
It's-
you did.
You're we ended up because of the way that it was presented, yes. But you're mischaracterizing the way Andrew
what-
Mailer was about it. You're
And
mischaracterizing the way
after
the
it,
Board of Selectmen
He
was
wouldn't let you on
about
the
it.
property, and I think that's the thing that I think has been the most aggravating, is we've had this sitting here.
Yes.
But he won't even let you on the property to do the appraisal, and that all happened after town meeting, from what I understand.
That's right, it did.
So
How
at the
long have
time.
we been in play?
Okay, but let's get back, because I don't want to,
Last year, Andrew Mailer came to our meeting, when we had a meeting in the room down there, and we talked about closing it out, and he said he would not close it out. In that meeting, he said he would not close it out, that we didn't have a need for the money at the time. If we did for the middle school project, we would talk about it, but at the time, there was nothing coming, and we asked if there was any big project coming or anything. Everybody said no, so we said we should not close it out at that time. I'll just give you my opinion. I think I lived through the Campion Hall days when we were promised that nobody was ever going to be able to build on that land. They were never going to do it. They had a setback of 150 or whatever. They went to court, they beat us. Now they have houses on the lake shore. We could have had that property sewn up, beautiful. All those houses wouldn't have been there. We would have had that for the town for $1 million. It was cheap. But we were convinced it was not buildable, so nobody was going to want it. So there we go. Right? This is the only expansion spot for the youth center, if it's ever going to grow, and this town is growing. And if you go up there at any given day in the summertime and look at the number of kids on that field and the size of the field, they're running out of space. And so I don't have a problem. If the land is not, if we can't make a field out of it, if we can't make it flat, then I have no problem with closing it. But I would want some assurances before I close this project, or a first right of refusal, or something from Greenbelt saying that they would buy it and hold it for us until we got it, or whatever agreement we had. to hold that land. But I would not give that land up or this spot until we have some answers.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, because the whole point of the project is for fields, for the youth center. So why can't we just, can I make a motion that we move forward with a wetlands engineer testing the Atwood land if he lets us on? And if he doesn't, we close, well, I won't, I was going to say,
No,
if he doesn't let us on, then we close this project and
That
move on.
we-
Because if he doesn't let us on, John, he hasn't let us on in years.
No.
So I
I
have issue with
Yeah,
that too. I mean,
let's give ourselves a little bit of.
that's why I didn't want to
flexibility,
add
but,
that.
yeah.
So my motion
But
is,
hold on, before you continue that, is that the general sense of all of us?
Yeah.
That we would, that if he doesn't
Oh.
let us on, that we would close it? I mean, Terry,
Well, it's all, you're talking about an approach. If we hire an engineering company and you knock on the door, hey, I'm here to do it.
No,
but we'd have to
There has
talk
to
to
be
them.
sensitivity
Of course.
in how this
Is
goes.
Somebody
Oh, no,
is
of
going to have to
course.
go
We
to
gotta-
them
yeah.
that knows them and convince them to let somebody on.
right, of
I would think that would
course,
have
of
to happen.
course, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
We're not
I mean,
gonna,
yeah.
but if
But-
he still says no,
then it's done.
then I
Well,
guess.
yeah, I mean, at some point, you can't do anything. I
Right.
mean,
It's
yeah.
been years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Right.
we've been really, really
No, you're-
patient, and we all know that's not a virtue of mine.
Well, you've been very
But-
patient tonight. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah.
You know, I think we've been really patient. It's gone on for years. We all wholeheartedly support. If this can be turned into additional fields for the youth center, absolutely full steam ahead. So I'll restate my motion, which was I move to hire and can we do it through you, through
Yeah, well,
town
I mean,
manager,
I
or-
would just say, if you're gonna do this as, if the purpose of it is gonna be for the youth center, then you need to keep the town involved,
right.
because it's,
Well, right
Yeah,
now, I
I
just,
think we-
I-
I-
oh,
Town
yeah.
manager-
I think we ought to do, I
Yeah.
mean, you know, obviously, the money will come from our pot, but that's
Right.
the reason
Yeah.
why we said we would use the Conservation Commission as the agent, and I'll also.
right, but if we're gonna
ask
be
the-
expected to maintain it, and we're in charge of it, and it's gonna come under the umbrella of the youth center, which is under the town, I mean, I think we need to be
More
involved with the
involved.
project.
Yeah.
My motion at
Does
the
anybody-
moment is strictly just to hire a wetlands engineer and put this, this is the main issue, and let's just put it to bed, put it to rest. If Doc Atwood doesn't allow us on the property, I move, we close it, you know, that,
So,
well,
I know you're in the
I can
middle
wait
of
for
your-
that.
Yeah, we
That
can
doesn't
wait,
have
you
to
can
be
come back
tonight.
next
Yeah.
month.
Well, a little bit more for it.
Yeah, just the first one.
Could
Okay,
we-
Yeah.
so
We
motion
just
made
wanna
to
move
hire
on. Thank you, Deb.
a wetland
For-
scientist.
save me from myself.
And to do that, right?
Yeah, just the
Okay.
wetlands, yeah, just the
So, do I have
wetlands
a
engineer
second?
hired through the town.
And I will work with Jen
Yeah.
to see, to give us a
Yeah.
list of names.
Names.
Right.
So second,
Yep, I
all in
said.
favor? Yeah.
Aye,
So
wonderful, good.
can I ask just a clarifying question, so I know what we're supposed to be doing on our end? Do you want us to reach out to Doc Atwood and ask him if
No.
he would like to talk about, see,
No,
that's where I get
I
confused.
think what I would recommend is, the only person could reach out to him is somebody that knows him. It's,
Terry.
yeah, Terry could do it, or, you know, like, one of the guys on the cemetery board. I mean, I would probably go and talk to a couple people and say, who knows him the best?
At some point, he's gonna have to talk to us, though.
Well, he will, but you
Okay.
you
See,
don't
but
just.
here's my concern.
I mean,
You're right.
that's,
You're right
that's
about
sort
that.
of me
Here's my
getting at, you have to keep the
Well,
town
I
involved.
mean, this, what this does
Here's the
is it
concern.
forces the issue on them. This actually works to our advantage because
Okay.
it says, look, dude, you know, if you don't let us do our due diligence, we can't deal with you, so.
I'd like to amend my motion, actually, and I want to put a 60-day moratorium on this. And at the end of 60 days, if Doc Atwood's still not letting us on, I'm moving on, but 60 days, 90 days, is that
Your
fair?
motion already passed.
I know, I make a motion that we put a
Can
90-day,
we just hold, can we just put a pin in that one for just 1 minute?
5 years.
No, I'm not, I'm in support of that motion. I'm not, okay, just, I just want to circle back to the strategy a little bit more. So, I mean, So Terry, would you feel comfortable reaching out and being that first sort of
Sure.
touch point?
I'll go with somebody from Ridgewood or whatever. We'll go together and we'll do it. And at the same time, I still think you could send a letter.
Yeah.
That just very
Well,
very
that-
nicely say the town would like to reintroduce themselves to go and do a project. Somebody will be contacting you
Well, that-
soon, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Just-
That's sort of where I was going with this, is we need to figure out a mechanism to keep the town involved in this discussion. So I don't know, so before you made your thing, I guess I want to know, do we need a motion, an amendment first to reconfigure this to make sure that the town is involved in this discussion?
Well, I think the town could
No.
get a letter out tomorrow, next week.
That's a
That's fine.
separate,
But
separate
Lori,
thing.
does that-
Wait, maybe, Donovan, if you want to make a motion directing the town to send a nice cordial note to.
No, I
the
trust that.
landowner.
I mean, I
Yeah.
tr- I don't
I
think
don't
we
think we
need-
need to, but. we
No,
could.
no, I don't either. I just want to make sure that Terry and Lori are both comfortable that we're going to keep the town.
Yeah, because the frustration with it over the last 2 years is we keep hearing like, yeah, but we have never gotten appraisal and the guy has never let us on his
Right.
property.
Right.
So why are we, that's our position is you're pursuing something that doesn't make any sense to us and it's not the way that we should be doing it. We should have worked all this out beforehand, came to the committee with an application, but we didn't put the application in. So, but yet we're asked to take the property on and maintain it and make it be part of our, purview. So we,
I know, but everybody knew what was going on, and Andrew was never shy. If he didn't like it, he would have.
No, I
He would
know.
have
And
straightened it out.
just to
So-
clarify, I don't think I think the whole closing of the thing.
Okay.
It was over a period of time when it was apparent that he was not going to let the property owner was not going to let this happen or
So-
not want this to happen.
So now we're moving forward, and give me till the next meeting. I'll give you an update. If you're not happy, we'll put a timetable on it. But I just, you're saying 60 days. If, I can pretty much tell you.
60 is too short.
I can pretty much tell you in
That's
30
not real.
if this is going to have a shot.
Okay.
So
That-
why don't
you know,
we just
That's great.
revisit it next meeting?
Yeah.
I think that's great. Revisit next meeting, and then if we need
Yeah,
to, we
it's
can
only
discuss it.
because of the length of time we've been
Yeah.
talking about.
I think we're all,
I think we just got, the money was set aside. We kind of were going to wait him out.
Yeah.
And see what he did. And
It's
it
like
didn't- it
5
didn't work.
years now from the get-go,
Right,
right?
it's not going the way, he at the time seemed like he was in a bigger rush. Remember at the time, he was
Yeah.
ready to move, he was gonna
Still
do
buy
it.
another house and, yeah.
But,
Well, life changes, things,
Yeah,
you know,
like things
I mean,
change, yeah, so.
So can I just ask a question too, moving forward? Say that it's not wet and it can be used for some fields by the youth center. Are you going to require him to subdivide the land first?
well, I think we have to talk about that. I think,
I think we have
Because we
to-
don't
yeah.
want to get into a situation where we're buying
a house and split.
a house,
more than what,
right, or more than we can use.
No, that's, we
I
would
think
only
we're
would
only
buy.
looking at land.
We'd
Academy
only buy the
Road?
land. We're not going to, that's my
Right.
point, is I think everybody's in agreement, we don't want to touch the house, we don't want to go anywhere near in the house.
Yep.
If that were the case, so, yeah.
I think that's the next step. I think we
Yeah, I
got to,
think
we
that's
got to
the next step.
determine the first steps, and then I think I would feel more comfortable talking about that.
I don't even think the appraisal can be done until we get that set up, because he may want to put some land with that house. I
Sure,
don't know.
of course.
So they're gonna have a clear line of where that, so that's gonna
absolutely.
probably
Yeah,
have to happen before the
That's my point, is he's going to
appraisal.
have to subdivide the
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
You're going to have to
Yeah.
have the appraisal done on the land only.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
I'd also like to ask the recreational expert a question, Terry. Is there in writing criteria to develop land for recreational purposes?
What we need to do for fields?
Right.
Oh, like a master plan?
Yeah, or like, the
Good.
criteria that, it can't be, wet to
Oh.
a certain, extent or anything.
You mean like so many, like topsoil and, you
See,
know.
see,
what-
see,
what-
as you know, the laws have changed
Good point.
right along, because
Right.
on that same brook, we have a softball field that's used every day, and there's no
Yeah,
problems.
yeah.
We have a youth center that's right on the brook. We have a municipal parking lot that abuts the brook.
Yep.
So,
And the brook's been there when it was the red bond.
and that's when it was, that's when the brook was really rolling. So, yeah, there's now any new fields are gonna require some underground drainage. So that's part of every field. It's mandated by the state, I think, now. But, we can look and see better. So you'd have to have somebody come in and just see how much soil needed to be moved, what had to happen, and that type of thing.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I-
land is wet, so it's going to have to be manipulated
Yeah,
in a certain way so it's usable.
right.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Good. And thanks, everybody. I know we had some differences of opinion, but, I'm very proud that we worked through this, so thank you. The old projects, do we have copies of
No, I
the?
think we have from Lynn.
Yeah, we have a couple from Lynn. There are definitely a few more that should be closed.
Yeah.
Well, I'll move to close out Stevens Estate bathroom, project 1343.
Is that the note from Lynn?
Yep.
Yeah.
As well as the Stevens Estate roofing and flashing project 1469.
I would second that. I got it right here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So if we go start at the top, I think Rolling Ridge and Oostler, we still need to keep open for a short period longer, and we'll know after.
Well,
We can
Oostler
reduce the amount.
Needs a, yeah, they both need.
Well, I mean, we could reduce the amount in Rolling Ridge because we're clearly not going to need this much money, or you could wait until like after Saturday and,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
mean-
close that, I wouldn't
I think
lower
we could
that
just
at
wait.
all.
okay,
Yeah, I don't-
okay.
I think Saturday's gonna be an interesting discussion
yeah.
for you all.
Well, it'll be interesting if, in the end, what sort of, he said tonight is inconsistent with what we see in the field.
That's what I
That'll be where it's interesting,
Right.
so.
Yeah, but I don't think, I think
No.
clearly we're moving on that one now, so
Yeah.
I don't think we need to close.
So the next one is Oostler, and Bill, maybe we could do a segue into, like, when did you get dates for people to come?
So it seemed like in general that during the week, just wouldn't work. And then Saturdays, I was trying to avoid kind of youth sports,
Yeah.
but also I know like Terry works Saturdays. But I think we could do like a Saturday afternoon. We could do like 3 to 5. Seemed to work.
For the Monday,
We got close, and then we fell.
okay.
Then it fell apart. We were pretty close on a Monday, and then it sort of fell apart. But then what I heard from a lot of people was Saturday could work if we were done at a reasonable time. And so my thought was if everyone sort of had a calendar and we could just look and say like I know when, weather permitting, the games and whatnot, what Saturdays work for me. And I just thought if we all sat and said, okay, this Saturday work, look out like 3 or 4 or 5 weeks and see what works.
I don't want to go out too much longer. I really want to get out.
Yeah,
out
I'd
there.
like them built
Yeah,
this summer.
Yeah, obviously, I guess technically we don't have to post it, but, this is Saturday earlier, I can do, the next Saturday I'm not here, but the one after, which is Memorial Weekend, I'm here.
Yeah.
As long as I'm done by 5, any Saturday works with me.
I could do early this Saturday. Again, parental driver's ed from
Yeah,
10 to
yeah.
12.
I could do this Saturday.
I can do this Saturday if it's earlier,
3 to 5.
yeah, I could do, yeah. My wife's not gonna be happy with that, but I could maybe make it work. 3 to 5, yeah. I could certainly do earlier than 11.
What do people think, like 8 o'clock in the morning?
Well, we already have something this Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 11.
Yeah.
But if this Saturday is the best one, maybe early would work?
For me, it does.
Morning.
So 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
Where should we meet? I don't want to freak them out.
Stevens
They're-
Estate.
Yeah,
You meet at Stevens Estate and walk down that way.
okay,
That's there's a nice trail that takes you down.
okay. Saturday at 8, yeah.
Unless it's pouring, I'm not coming.
It's going to be nice on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, Saturday's
Okay, where,
Do
Terry,
you-
where in Stevens?
Would you want to go out there some other
Go up
time
behind
and
the
walk
building
around?
where we park for our meetings.
Oh, okay, yeah. Maybe what we could do is, because we're going to get a bunch of us, but maybe some other time we could just take you out,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Frank, anytime you want to
Yeah.
go,
I was
I'll
just
show you
gonna
all the
say.
projects. I'll bring you around everything.
yeah.
Bill took me up on it.
So we'll keep the money open on that one too, because we'll need some. The next one is McAvoy. Terry, do we need any more? Can we close that?
No, we can close it.
You'll know
Yeah.
better what we do.
Okay.
It's millions of dollars.
You can close it?
Yes.
No.
No?
No, that's why I'm here too, to make sure that whatever town project. I talked to Jim Stanford. There's still some things that they need that money for.
Okay.
Did
I've
you
been-
talk
I've
to
been-
Jim?
I've literally been telling him every month, I'm gonna close this if you don't get it done. If you don't need it, I'm gonna close it. So and that's why I said, I'm going to my next meeting. If you haven't used it, it's gone. So, all right.
Yeah, no,
give
they
him-
were,
we'll
so
give him
I
one
think they
more.
were gonna get benches or something.
That's what- I know, that's what I keep telling them.
So they need the money that's in there.
Okay. Good.
Okay, the multi-use trails is still going on. I know let's see,
Maybe should we get an update from where they are, the multi-use trails, phase 1?
Yeah, who's leading that now? Is that Gene?
Yeah.
I mean, we could have Gene come in next time.
We schedule that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be great if you could wait though till, like, not the next meeting.
Yeah.
Jean's got a lot on it.
Yeah, she's doing, I mean,
That's
we're,
fine.
the
I
planning
have no problem
board,
with that. Yeah.
Okay.
the planning board has been meeting every week about the Osgood Landing
Yeah,
thing.
no, no,
She's
no,
doing all the
that-
work on that, so.
I just
yeah.
like to get it in
Well,
motion, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To Jean's credit, that was sitting stale for a while, and
No.
a few months ago, she said,
Awesome.
I'm gonna pick this up and I'm gonna just do
Good.
it.
That's great.
So-
I just love to, there's still a lot of money there. I'd love to just.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the athletic complex, do you know we got sued?
Twice.
Yeah, the planning board got sued, and then the CPC got sued. We may want to bring town council in sometime in executive
that's
session
good,
to tell us about that, so. The Drummond, $700, I think we could close that.
That, we have that money spent.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, that'll be zero on your next report.
Okay,
Yeah, so.
So it's closed.
Okay, good.
okay, okay, let's see.
Stevens Estate Trails has $7,500 left on it.
I don't, that's the one that Glenn did with the boardwalks, right, Deb?
I believe so, yep.
Hey, Glenn, what? Plus?
Glenn did the bunch of boardwalks through, I think. I just don't know. I mean, is everybody okay with leaving it open? It's only a 2018 project, so
Well, yeah.
actually,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
2018
Part of
project.
the
yeah.
things that conduct to Usler are gonna be Stevens Estate. So, this property, but, so we might be able to use some of that on that. I don't know.
Yeah. The Wire Hill parking lot's done.
It's done, the balance is less than that once the last bill gets paid, but he said that it can be closed out, Kevin said it can be closed out after. So,
Next meeting.
we just submitted it, so, yeah.
Oh,
so
there's
it-
one more bill that he,
You signed it
Yeah,
already.
okay.
So that was
Yeah, I signed-
submitted,
okay, so
and
that-
then
that's against
There'll be
that.
a small balance. You could vote to close it, and then I can just let Lynn know that it can be closed. It's up to
Okay.
you. But he did confirm that it's done.
All right, I move to close Wire Hill then.
Second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Make yourself very unpopular with all the high school kids.
It's not as much fun as it was in the 80s.
And all the people with their dogs too, so, yeah. Okay, the Fields project, I had some people would want to zero that one out, I guess.
The burial ground's still on here, but,
The first, yeah, there's $0.
yeah. Should
So
we
we
close
should
it?
close the first one. CJ, I
Phase
think,
one, yes.
All
yeah.
right, then I
so,
move to close the,
Second.
Project 1249, right?
1249, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause it's all
Motion
spent.
made, seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The historical records, I think we can close that. I don't know.
So this was Joyce's request.
Yeah.
She still has some things that need to be done. I asked her about that as well. So we would request that you keep it open.
Okay,
It's mostly, it's taking a while because it's scanning
Yeah.
the old records and hiring companies to come in and do that. She did one big, I guess, group of it, and she's gonna work on getting the rest.
That's a huge project.
It is.
so, yeah. Are all those records available on the website?
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not the ones that have been scanned, though.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Good thing you came.
Yeah. Some of the ones I've seen are really pretty cool. It's
Yeah,
pretty cool
there's some
stuff.
really old ones on it. You have to,
Yeah,
It's wicked cool.
yeah, so, okay. The second old burying ground, I know, CJ, you said there's still some
Yeah,
work.
so this is phase 2 of the first old burying ground. There's $9,500 left in it. The commission would like to keep it open in case any
Yeah.
other stones get damaged, which happened last year. There was a stone,
Toppled.
a branch fell on it, and it broke it, and we were able to bring them in, and they were able to fix it. So we'd like to keep this open.
So the Ridge one, the main gate, aside from the trucks killing it, I think that's been long done.
I think that's done, huh?
Yeah, last activity, 2015.
Yeah, so,
Move to close the restoration of Main Gate Ridgewood Cemetery,
Second.
1317.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The second burying ground.
That's
CJ, is
still
that-
ongoing.
Yeah, that's still
Yeah.
ongoing, yeah. Okay. The Historical Society building.
Still 14 grand in there.
I don't know
14.
what the status is on that. We'd have to have the society come in.
Should we should have them come in
Yeah,
anyway.
because they have a bunch of projects on here.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing a bunch of things. So we could ask them to come in next
Yeah.
time? Yeah.
Haven't
Could have
seen
Stan
Stan in
and
a
Kathy
while.
and, yeah.
Jillian, could you arrange that for us? Thank you.
Okay, the next one we already did. The other Ridge one for $400, we could probably close that. Someone like to make a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Stan's Memorial here.
Still sitting on the park.
Still, I was just gonna say that, it's still sitting there.
Well, when he comes in to talk about the Historical Society, we can ask him about that. Okay, we did the bathrooms.
I think the carriage house I think that's done. I don't know if they're going to hit that in again, right? That's, whatever they're going to take, they've already taken, right?
Steve Foss requested to remain open
He did? Okay.
because that apparently, and I did not go back and look at the application, is to stabilize the carriage house.
Yeah.
So
Right.
basically,
Keeping it
wants
up.
it in case something
It
else
goes.
falls off,
All right.
something, it's very unstable.
Scary.
Okay, the library roof repairs, they spent all the money, but it's still open. Does somebody want to make a motion to close
So
that one?
moved.
13
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And there's one other Ridgewood one,
These are new though.
2017, 2018.
2017. I'm inclined to close the 2017 one for Ridgewood. Does somebody want to,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, the fire, and everything else is, Terry, the first rev of fire equipment, do we still have some work to do on that?
We don't have any work doing the equipment, but we need to disassemble the piece that's going to come into town hall. So we have to pay him to disassemble it and then assemble it again, and it's going to go in the foyer downstairs.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Can anyone tell me what the difference between, well, I mean, obviously there's a difference, but preservation of second burying ground, project 1325 on row 21, and then second burying ground preservation, row 31, so 10 rows down, 1356.
It's another phase 1, phase 2
Oh, okay.
thing.
Okay. Thanks, CJ.
Yep. The people that do this work are very, there's only like 2 groups of
No,
people that
totally,
do it.
just
and
the
they're
same name,
yeah.
I was getting confused.
Maybe we should delineate that on the,
Yeah.
on the thing. Just call it phase 1, phase 2.
Yeah. Okay, moving right along, the Stevens Library masonry refurbishment is still going on. They want to come in next meeting because apparently the situation there structurally is not as good as they thought it was. Have you talked to them about
I
that?
just heard about it today.
Yeah, that was the first I heard about
So,
it.
yeah, I don't know, I'd have to go back and look at the application and see what it is that they applied for and what they're trying to change on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I don't know if the-
yeah, I think it has a lot to do with, the front stairs and then the lower level there in the front, and for some reason, water's gotten into all of that
Yeah, I
stuff.
think
And
it's gonna be more than.
they seem to think it is, so I think, they said they would come in next time and explain it to us, so.
I think Steve could probably explain it
Yeah,
better.
Steve, they copied Steve on the note that I saw today, so, yeah, we should definitely have him come. Okay, moving down, the veterans' housing, I think we still want to keep that open because we have to come to a resolution of the agreement with them. And I know, I've talked to town council about it. I don't know if you've talked to her recently. I talked to her several months ago.
Not recently about it, but I know that the attorney for the developer, whoever it was.
Veterans outreach.
Yeah, I talked to them, and they have to do the restriction before we give them money, so.
Right, yeah, there's a bunch of conditions. I mean, we obviously want to do it because that would add 3 more, right, to our affordable housing count.
Yeah, it's just a matter of them.
And the guy who was doing it died,
They
and
don't- I don't believe
they're
that.
putting in the new director, so.
John, tragic.
Yeah, that was a shame,
Amazing.
yeah.
Work he did over the years, amazing work.
Well, the problem is they're entitled to the money. I mean,
I totally get it, but at some point, I mean,
well, at some point, yeah, I mean, I think what we do is, what I would recommend we do at this point is, bring it up again the next meeting to see if there's any progress been made, and then we probably, probably need to wait till September, but if by September there's no progress made, maybe we do pull the plug on it.
Have
But this is when I feel like, all things being equal, unless something really weird is happening, we have almost a moral obligation to pay them.
yeah,
money.
I have no
so,
problem
yeah.
with that. I just,
Yeah.
if they're not gonna do it though, then.
Well, if they don't want it,
That's what
yeah, I mean,
I'm curious because John was, still running the show for a long time after this. I mean, it's such a fantastic
I
project.
don't. All I remember is I went to the,
the opening and the ribbon
opening
cutting.
event, and it was a wonderful event. It was
Unbelievable.
great,
The
and,
families have
yeah.
been great that are in there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been really fantastic, but I don't know how, I don't know what, if there's any program attached to it, how Veterans Outreach works, if it's, we're looking for that deed restriction, and they've never done it, right?
And they've already recorded the deed, so yeah.
And
Tracy,
they've already
I-
recorded the deed. I think we need to reach out. I think that John may have done that.
Well, I had talked to him like at the end of the summer to get the ball rolling on this again, and he thought that the time for him to take the money had expired, so he didn't even think that he could have taken the money again. So then I think he started working on it, then he got sick, and now we're at this.
Yeah, so I think we
So I
should
think he just
reach
thought that the
out.
money wasn't there for him to
But
take
the
it
problem
again.
is, though, they already filed the deed with no affordable restriction. There's no
No, but
affordability.
we
change that,
definitely
right?
should. I mean,
That's part of the agreement, though, so
Yeah, you
we
have
need to reach out
yeah,
to them and.
To them. I mean, I don't know if, because that was one that was really prior town council did. That was, Carol did that one, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the way that it's always worked, we never had a situation where somebody didn't come. So what would happen is, like what happens with Bread and Roses, what happens with Bread and Roses is they need the money, so they ask for the money. We have them sign at that point, the restriction, the deed, whatever it may be, and we hand over the money. In this case, they never came and asked for the money. They did the transaction. It's already done. That's not to say that they can't. I think that they're just trying to work out the legal documents in order to do that, because typically it happens at the time of transfer. So I don't know if there's any prohibition after the fact.
I'm wondering too if somewhere along the line they opted out because the organization itself, you know, could bear the cost of the development.
Right, and not
they
have
may
it
have
be at
amongst
affordable.
themselves
They may have chosen not to make it affordable.
affordable.
That's
Well,
true,
if
too.
that is their prerogative, it
Yeah.
is their prerogative at this point, they just won't get any money.
That's
Right,
true.
that's right.
I mean,
We
I
need
can
to
ask.
touch base with
I
them.
can ask Suzanne to, town council, to follow up with
Yeah.
the attorney that contacted her.
Because
and
I'd
see
love
if I
to
can
take,
get a
if
status on it.
Veterans Outreach is like good with that wonderful veterans housing, then take this, find some other housing for vets.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
But I'd love to
They
partner
do
with them
God's work,
again, you
so,
know what I mean? If we could
yeah, I
partner with
wouldn't
them
mind having
again
them back in,
and do another
because-
2-3 family like this one,
Especially if they don't take the money.
especially if they don't take the money.
Yeah,
But what John did with that organization from the day he got there, and sadly until the day that he passed, is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It's complete.
You'll never get anybody with that energy.
Yeah.
And his ability to grow and his passion for housing and for his veterans is, I mean, he's definitely a force that's
yeah.
missed.
Definitely died well before his time. Good guy, yeah. So, okay, so that we keep open. We already talked about Milk Street. The senior housing refurbishment zero balance. Somebody want to make a motion for 1347?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
No, wait, what
Laura-
about 1346?
1346, you mean?
Oh, 1346, yeah. I'm sorry, yeah, 1346. Yeah, if you want to, everybody agree it's 1346? Okay.
That's affordable housing refurbishment?
There, yeah, 1347 is, which one is that? That is,
Senior housing.
Senior
yeah, that's the
housing.
senior housing.
That looks close, oh, it's 2,300 in there.
I think she still has to do the parking lot.
Yeah, I think. you're right.
She ain't gonna
She
do it for
doing on
2,300.
That parking lot was Bingham Way. Parking lot is on Bingham Way.
That's senior, isn't that senior housing? Oh, I see what you're saying. Is it
Family.
NA housing Bingham Way and then a senior housing?
Yeah.
I don't know what that senior housing refurbishment is.
Well, maybe we ought to hold it till next time.
It's not a lot of money, and it's 2017, so.
So it's, yeah, so, and she's,
Much of it has been expended, so.
There could be done full when she was at,
Oh, it's probably Folds Terrace.
Yeah.
I think that's done.
Let's double check, will you?
yeah,
Right.
no harm in double checking.
Folks, done? Oh,
1353, it's
Well, okay.
zero. Somebody want to make a motion to officially close that?
1353?
Yeah. So moved, did you,
I made a motion.
Second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, the family housing, that probably is not all done yet, and everything else is still new.
We'll open.
1365, I would make a motion to close item 1365,
Oh, yeah.
Affordable Housing Trust for $100,000.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay. Then, somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve May 9 minutes.
Second.
April 11?
Oh, April 11.
Today's.
Sorry,
the
yeah, yeah. Wrong one. Yep,
Yeah.
sorry, April 11th.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Any
Abstain.
other things before we go? Motion to adjourn, somebody want to?
So moved.
Just on the next thing, we probably
All in
should have,
favor?
Oh, yeah.
town council definitely talk about that.
The litigation, yeah, sure, yeah.
What are the grounds for suing us?